In the name of God, the all-merciful, the mercy-giving, if you are able and if you are willing, please join me in prayer to open this commencement ceremony. O most merciful and mercy-giving God, O sustainer of the heavens and the earth, and the knower of all that lies within them, O creator of death and life, O source and strength, O source of strength and fortitude, O giver of peace and security and healing, send down your blessings as we commend those here today who heard and answered the calling to serve the health and well-being of their fellow man. We thank you for the overflowing blessings of life and health. We cherish too those in our lives, family, friends, supporters, who are present here today to honor the accomplishments of their loved ones. And we cherish as well those who are absent, whether by death or by distance or by other circumstance, yet who are kept near in heart by love. We honor those who made our paths smoother and perhaps even at times a little more difficult. We honor them all because we love them and moreover because they love us, and we show our love by celebrating this day with joy and gratitude. We ask you, O compassionate God, just as you have granted the students here the strength and perseverance to arrive at this day, so too grant that they may be and continue to be true to the noblest of convictions, that they may strive to emulate the most courageous and compassionate of their profession, that their hands and their minds may be a source of healing that leaves no sickness, that they may continue throughout humbly to learn and to grow, and thus that they may be a blessing to their patients, to their teachers, and one day to their students, to their families, to their communities, and to all the world. This we ask of you, the all-wise, the ever-living. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Truly a joy to be with all of you today on this most august of occasions. For those that may not know me, my name is Mukesh Jain, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Dean of Medicine and Biological Sciences and Senior Vice President for Health Affairs at Brown University. I want to begin by first extending a warm welcome to parents, family, members, alumni, faculty, friends who've traveled near and far to be part of this milestone moment. Collectively, you have inspired, encouraged, supported today's graduates for decades, which has culminated in this most momentous of occasions. So congratulations to all of you, and how about class of 24 giving a round of applause to your supporters. And of course, the biggest congratulations goes to our honorees, the class of 2024 graduates gathered here today. We are absolutely thrilled for you. Over your medical school career, you have persevered, experienced just how vital your work in medicine is, both to individual and communities. Your diligent efforts and steadfast commitment to excellence in the midst of especially challenging circumstances have resulted in this richly deserved achievement that we gather to celebrate today. We are all so proud of you. How about a round of applause for the class of 2024? So it goes without saying, today is really a seminal moment. For by the end of today, you will have willfully crossed the proverbial Rubicon and your identity forever altered. That identity, that of a doctor, will accompany you for the entirety of your life. I pause because it's really important to appreciate that moment. For the rest of your life, it is your identity, that of a physician. It will impact how society views you, whether it's family, friends, patients, colleagues, complete strangers. It's really important to appreciate what a privilege it is to bear the identity of a physician. It is absolutely distinct from anything. But with privilege comes enormous responsibility. The responsibility to impact humanity for social good, be it at the level of the individual, patient, community, society as a whole. The responsibilities of the physician are great, as is the privilege. We're privileged to be with people at their happiest moments and often at their darkest. You will see the breadth of humanity, and I wholly recommend that you open your eyes and embrace it. In the course of your evaluation, spend time learning about the individual beyond the illness, where they live, grew up, hobbies, professions, sources of joy. You will gain a deep connection, and it will make an enormous impact on your patient's experience and, equally importantly, your own experience. You will quickly come to appreciate that you have many external pressures impacting your work. Keep in mind that no matter how challenged you feel, no matter how tired you might be, you're not the one in the hospital gown, you're not in the hospital bed. Your presence is critical because patients do not place their trust in machines, devices, or institutions. They place their trust in you. Be present in that moment. It is that engagement that defines you. It is that engagement that defines the profession. This is your responsibility, your chance, potentially your only chance with that individual to impact that life. One of the other fabulous things about being in medicine, which I must admit when I was sitting in your seat I didn't fully appreciate, is that while you have this established core identity, there's an inherent flexibility to grow in diverse ways throughout the course of your career. So there's many other ways that you can have impact. Some of you may engage in science. It has been 3 decades since I sat in your chair, and this period has been witness to breathtaking advances in medicine, from sequencing of the human genome to non-invasive approaches that are supplanting surgical interventions to spectacular advances in imaging that are accelerating the diagnosis and treatment of disease. The progress and promise of science is remarkable, and you may choose to engage in research along with clinical care and contribute to changing standard of care. It's an incredibly exciting time in medicine, and we're all poised to benefit from what is termed the biorevolution, where the full power of biology, decades in the making, is now being combined with technology, be it computing, AI, digital twinning, 3D printing, and all of this being brought together and leveraged to diagnose and develop treatments faster, safer, and in a more personalized fashion. In the course of the next 30 to 40 years of your career, discoveries we have not even begun to imagine, let alone name, will come to the fore. As a physician, you can lead the way into these frontiers and help ensure that these technologies are properly leveraged, not misused, to improve the lives of patients and caregivers, not just the lucky few. There are other avenues, in addition to academia, that medicine allows you. Leadership in government, industry, to ensure that we're focused on developing the most impactful approaches and ensuring that the public is well informed so that our advances can have maximal impact. Do not ignore such opportunities because your engagement as a physician in such efforts can help overcome misinformation, disinformation about science and medicine, help narrow the inequity gaps that are so pervasive nationally and globally, and help ensure that we keep access to affordable care a right that all deserve. Stay curious, and with a little bit of hard work, a little bit of luck, you may have the opportunity to change standard of care along with delivering great care by shaping the future of science, medicine, healthcare, and public policy. And finally, remember that medicine is a team sport. It is not an individual sport. You have the chance to be part of teams composed of nurses, social work, pharmacists, and other professionals. We have a lot of amazing people in medicine. And it's remarkable what a group of bright, dedicated individuals connected by common purpose can achieve. Embrace all your colleagues. I'd like to close with a few following thoughts. The majority of you entered medical school in the summer of 2020. You may recall these were deeply unsettled times. The first immobilizing wave of COVID-19 infections was waning, but a vaccine was still with some uncertainty. At that same time, our country was reckoning with centuries of anti-Black racism and the ways it continues to manifest. We could no longer look away from the deep pain that affects people's lives. I really wish I could say that the world is better today, more peaceful in 2024, but that wouldn't be true. So many members of our community have been impacted by the events of the past few years around the globe, most recently in Israel and Gaza since last October. It has been a profoundly difficult year, filled with contentious moments, filled with fear, and it affects everybody. And we don't know what the future holds. There is no doubt in the course of your careers, there will be many challenges ahead, many unanticipated challenges. But what I want to leave you with, class of 2024, is that you've proven that you can persevere. Your presence here today serves as a reminder of how strong you are as individuals and as a class. It is important, especially in these difficult times, to always remember our shared humanity and core value of humanism, central to the practice of medicine. Lean on those core values of the profession to guide you when the world becomes complex. Class of 2024, we are so very proud of each and every one of you. And I wish each and every one of you all the very best in all the endeavors that you will take on. Congratulations again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelvin Chang, and I have the great pleasure of introducing our faculty speaker and my longtime friend and mentor, Dr. Fred Schiffman. Dr. Schiffman is a hematologist-oncologist and associate physician-in-chief at the Miriam Hospital. He also serves as the medical director of the Lifespan Cancer Institute. His many titles at Brown include vice chairman of the Department of Medicine, associate program director of the Internal Medicine Residency Program, and the Sigal Family Professor of Humanistic Medicine. I first met Dr. Schiffman in the fall of 2014 as an undergraduate student. He was a guest lecturer for a seminar called Cross-Cultural Approaches to Death and Dying, and came in to provide a glimpse into the medical perspective. In contrast to the cold and clinical view I expected to receive, the picture that Dr. Schiffman painted was one of warmth and meaning. I remember sitting there thinking, this is who I want to be when I grow up. Thankfully, Dr. Schiffman took me under his wing, and we bonded over a mutual love of physiology, art, and guitars. After college, I went on to work as a lab manager for his son, Dr. Joshua Schiffman, a pediatric oncologist in Salt Lake City. Even from 2,117 miles away, Dr. Schiffman Sr. managed to connect me with medical educators at Utah using art to teach clinical skills. In between all the pipetting, his message rang loud and clear. Don't forget about humanism. It has been such a joy to work with Dr. Schiffman again throughout medical school. At the Miriam Hospital, I would look forward to chief rounds every Friday, where Dr. Schiffman would lead us in interviewing our patients on a humanistic level. I did, however, experience a tense moment with Dr. Schiffman one morning when he told me very matter-of-factly to make sure that all my clinical tasks were done and to be in his office by 1 p.m. I thought I was in some kind of trouble. When I arrived at 1 p.m. and saw that he was with the chair of medicine, Dr. Rice, I knew I was done for. Imagine my surprise when they pulled out 2 guitars and a microphone. Dr. Schiffman has always been the person that I can call anytime about any problem. He does this with everyone, no matter whether you're a patient, a colleague, or a mentee. Anyone who has spent any amount of time with him will know that he's always picking up the phone to say he'll call back, and he always will. It always feels like he is a person first and a physician second, except maybe when he's giving a lecture about the spleen. Finally, it feels surreal to say that Dr. Schiffman has been responsible for some of my closest friendships today. I want everyone to know that he loves playing matchmaker and can be found at any AMS event exclaiming, "You have to meet so-and-so," after which he will lead you across the hall, introduce you to the connection, sit back, and watch the magic happen. Well, today, the tables have turned, and it is now my honor to introduce him, sit back, and watch the magic happen. Without further ado, here is Dr. Schiffman.
Thank you, Kelvin. It's really amazing. Those kind words are ones that my father, may he rest in peace, would be proud of, and my mother would actually believe. So I'm touched and humbled by this opportunity to address you, the members of the graduating class of 2024. Your mothers, your fathers, your spouses, significant others, and other family members, honored guests, and friends and officials of the Warren Alpert School of Medicine at Brown University. This is the last lecture you'll receive as a medical school class. Not that any of you ever really attended lectures in person. Because of COVID and the availability of Zoom and YouTube, you watched medical school lectures on Zoom and YouTube at double speed. Since I only have 12 minutes to give this talk, I'm going to speak at double speed. It is my chance as a representative. It is my chance as a representative of the faculty to address you as a captive audience. Your brain is undoubtedly brimming with information. And if not, there's always up-to-date Google, Wiki. You'll figure it out. But I think there may be some things that we missed. Have we failed to mention some vital clinical pearl? Should we show you one last EKG? Perhaps a new tyrosine kinase inhibitor? One more electron micrograph? Should we conduct a last-minute CPC or M&M? No. Now, as you approach internship and the gateway to your lives as members of this still honored and honorable profession, I'll try to impart the importance of being there in all the dimensions of that phrase, and also some of the consequences of not being there. So, being there is the title of this talk, The Power and Poetry of Your Presence. Critical moments in your patient's medical journeys At these moments, your presence cannot be overestimated. This has been made recurrently clear to me, most recently by one of my patients, Jennifer, who told me when I saw her in another hospital, unexpected to her, she said, "When you visited me in the hospital, it was the best medicine." So being there, attending, bearing witness, being present, all of these would seem so natural and intuitive to caregivers, so exceedingly simple, but it's not. Recently, I was making rounds in the hospital, and I noticed most of the ward teams were rounding in groups. One resident, whom I'll call Neil K., was not with his team, but he was sitting at a desk making phone calls. "Neil," I said, "where's your team?" He said, "Oh, they're rounding down the hall, but I'm doing it in my own way." "Neil, what way is that?" I inquired. "Watch, Dr. Schiffman." He looked at his patient list for a name, picked up his phone, and dialed a number. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson. This is Dr. K. How are you doing this morning? How did you sleep last night? How is your breathing today?" "Neil," I exclaimed, "she's down the hall. Why don't you just see her and, for God's sake, do a physical exam?" "Well," he said, "this takes me a shorter period of time, so I'll have more time to look up her labs and her x-rays and her CT scans." And I finished his sentence for him. "So then you can call her on the phone or text her and tell her what the results are." "Yeah, that's right." Yeah. So telemedicine in the hospital, he really wasn't there. Now I think iPads, iPhones, iPatients, iDoctors. Leave your computers, be with the patient. You must be there to listen, to touch, and examine your patients. A way to remember that is the acronym IS LEAST. I, introduce yourself. S, sit down at eye level. L, listen. E, empathize. A, ask for answers and ask questions. Summarize is the S, and T is touch. Abraham Varghese, a brilliant physician and writer, said, "I have no illusions about the limitations of the physical exam, but I increasingly feel that the exam is an important ritual whose importance has diminished for doctors because we have other ways of getting information. But it's still just as important for patients, important to the ritual of one patient bearing his soul and body, and it can't be overestimated. Rituals are terribly important to human beings because they signify transformation. This is how you learn and earn your right to say, 'I am your doctor.' If, as a doctor, you shortchange this ritual, you end up by making patients feel that you aren't interested. They lose trust." Varghese has written a beautiful book called Cutting for Stone. If you haven't read it, read it. You will thank me. In it, an older surgeon asks a surgical trainee, in an emergency, what treatment is administered by ear? The answer, words of comfort. So go see the patient, examine the patient, comfort them, be there. You need to be there to teach, too. Besides being there for your patients and their families, you need to be there for your students as a teacher. It cannot be done long distance. Very often, as many of you know, the most effective teaching occurs as you explain what you're doing while you're doing it, narrating your own thoughts and actions. But you will have an incredible opportunity to teach every second of the day. But you need to be there. Teach everybody who will listen, and they will teach you. You need to be there for that. Why teach? Because it's fun, because you learn, because a teacher affects eternity. You can never tell where your influence stops, but you have to be there to teach. Being there to learn. Your new white coats and your new hospital scrubs will give you instantaneous access to the most secret compartments of a patient's being. Souls are bared in a matter of moments because of your status as a caregiver. The white coat is a reminder that because much has been given to you, much will be expected from you, as Dean Jane said. So the elements of humanism and professionalism, altruism, accountability, excellence, duty, honor, integrity, compassion, service, and empathy, as well as respect for others, comes with donning your coat and scrubs. But you know that as you care for patients, it will really benefit you as well. But what will it take from you? How much can and should you give? It may seem like doublespeak, contradictory and ironic. How much should you give? How much can you give? It will change from moment to moment. You will need to consider boundaries as you care for patients and families. William Osler's equanimitas and detached concern should be employed judiciously as you care for patients, because you've also heard that the secret about patient care is in caring for the patient. But how much involvement can you afford as you start caring for patients early on in your career? You hopefully will be the one at the end of the day who will leave the computer and prefer to sit on a patient's bed, hold their hands, turn off your pager and cell phone, and reflect and be mindful about what they experienced through the day. You can do that early on in your careers, and you should build upon this experience of wisdom acquisition. As Dean Jane said, get to know the patient as a person, who they are, what their family is like. And as I will say in a minute, the application of diagnostic and therapeutic tools depends on that knowledge of the individual. A colleague of mine has written about dealing with patients who are desperately ill. He said it makes you so aware of the existential realities of life, helps you crystallize its wonder and be continuously aware of its uncertainties. If you watch and listen carefully to your patients, you are always living a life a little closer to the edge. Yeah, we must use evidence as we make diagnostic and therapeutic decisions, but also use the wisdom gained from your time with patients to make excellent clinical judgments as you care for patients. Much has been written about personalized medicine using immune signatures and molecular genetics to help aim targeted therapy in patient-centered care. Yes, you must bring a disciplined intellect to the bedside, but as we individualize our scientific recommendations, we must be wise enough to put them in the context of the patient and family dynamics. Milton Homolsky, an honored chief of medicine at Brown, famously said, "We hope that molecular biology has not curdled the milk of your human kindness. Never forget the healing power of a kind word, a gentle touch, or a listening ear." The meeting of doctor and patient is a supreme occasion for being human. The doctor is a major source of moral energy, affecting the spiritual texture and substance of the entire society. But you must leave the electronic medical record to have that meeting. Your health and your family's health. Being a physician or parent or a partner must be done with your whole self. But if you're all these things, how many selves do you need? The conundrum is an ancient one. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? One of your major challenges then will be to draw the boundary between professional and private life. We must all learn to recognize the limitations of what we can do for our patients, and simultaneously we must nurture our own physical and emotional beings. Wellness, work-life balance, avoidance of burnout, and resilience strategies must become part of your professional trajectory. At the end of the day, you must figure out a way to give enough to your patients while leaving enough for you to regenerate. As Rita Sharon has written, medicine cannot be something that one does only with a part of the self. The boundaries with each doctor are as porous, perhaps, as those around illness or healing. But the effectiveness of medicine and its rewards for the physician may be proportional to the ability of the physician to achieve engagement rather than detachment, intimacy rather than distance, relation rather than isolation in the care of the patient. Each of us must find a work-life balance formula that works for us, but it must be flexible, and my own continues to evolve. So conclusions. So, in conclusion, your words and reassurance, the power of your presence, which help make up the therapeutic alliance of doctor and patient, will be sometimes as important as your hands writing out prescriptions and even transplanting livers and hearts. So last minute advice, talk with your patients. At the end of a busy, confusing day, go back to your patient's room, sit down in their beds. It will take you 3 minutes, but it'll seem like hours to that patient. Turn off your cell phone, turn off your beeper, look them in the eyes, hold their hands, translate the data that you've gathered, and support them and listen. Illness, you will find, often tells its secrets in casual parentheses, but there is no substitute for being there with them. Patients and families want to be listened to and understood. Be adventurous sometime. If your hospitalized patients are cared for by another physician, call or visit them. Everyone will be happily surprised, especially you. Be a rebel. Even if you've worked your full 80 hours work week already, stay in the hospital for a few more minutes. Comfort a worried family who look to you for guidance, but then get home to your own family and care for them and yourself. The division between science and intuition, between reason and romanticism, of which you have become so uncomfortably aware in medical school, can be annealed, can be joined in the care of patients. Disease is what the physician finds, but illness is what the patient feels, what the patient fears. Patients are more than their images on a computer screen, and cure depends on science and care and art. The poetry of your presence may sometimes soothe your patient better than science, and you will often treat despair along with disease. The comfort that comes from your reassuring hands stands for the promise, the very oath you will take in a few minutes in this holy place. And finally, I know that each of you dreams and believes you can make a difference. As Harriet Tubman has said, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world. Reach out now. Begin with one patient at a time. So go forth, take good care of your patients, take good care of yourselves and your families. I wish you Godspeed.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Praveen Rajaguru, and it is my honor to introduce our commencement student speaker. A class like this is unique and that's experienced all of the things that we have, in my opinion, deserves a speaker who's just as special. I am incredibly proud to introduce Sudheesha Perera, or as many of us know him, Sud. Though he's my closest friend in MD24, I don't think I can fully convey who he is in under 3 minutes. So I'll just try my best here to share the big picture of why I'm excited to hear him speak and why I hope that you are too. Sud's accomplishments speak for themselves. Not that he'd ever tell you that himself. But to name a few examples, he's a health disparities researcher, a former Brown advocate for social change and equity, and a longtime volunteer with a clinic in Thailand, a talented software engineer, and an excellent jazz saxophonist. And this summer, he's headed to Yale to start his internal medicine residency. But in the same way that reading a patient chart rarely means that you truly know a patient, Sud's resume doesn't tell half the story of the person that he is. Behind his accomplishments lies a drive to live fully and try new things. If you've ever seen a snack at the grocery store and you've wondered who in the world is buying this, it's probably Sud. And when our medical school band couldn't find a drummer, he self-taught himself beatboxing, a skill that he'll still break out in conversation if there's ever a lull. And while in medical school, he trained and ran his first marathon. And his logic was, if I can run 3 miles right now, I can probably run 6. And if I can run 6, I can probably run 12. And if I can run 12, then I can obviously run 26. I'll have to consult the sports medicine physicians in the audience to see if that math checks out. But amid the driven and multifaceted individuals at AMS, I've been truly grateful to meet colleagues who truly value human connection. And Sud is one of these people. His home is always open, and I can't recall him ever refusing a guest other than during the peak of the pandemic. His knowledge of the traffic patterns around our local airports is unparalleled, likely due to all the rides he gives. And during the tough moments of medical school that I'm sure that we've all likely experienced, he often vents with a unique sense of humor that lightens the mood at least a little bit. And although in medical school it can be easy to feel inadequate or excluded, Sud strives to hear others and make them feel included. After being selected as our speaker, he asked our class to share personal stories and experiences with the hope of making this speech as relatable as possible for those who are meant to hear it. And while there's much more that I could say about Sud, it's past time to get to his speech. So the last thing I'll say about him, and in my view the most important, is simply that he cares. He truly and deeply cares about every person that he interacts with, every commitment that he makes, and every effort that he takes. And in a career and time where it's all too easy to grow jaded or apathetic, I am so proud to call him my colleague, friend, brother, and now commencement speaker. So without further ado, let's welcome Sud Perera.
Good morning, everyone. It's truly an honor and joy to speak in front of all of you today. Praveen, much love, man. Thank you so much for those kind words. And to MD24, I'm sorry to say, in fact, you do have one more lecture left. I'll try my best to keep this high yield, but Dr. Schiffman is a hard act to follow. I'd like to start with some acknowledgements. First, that we sit today on the ancestral homelands of the Narragansett Indian tribe, whose ancestors stewarded these lands with great care and who continue as a sovereign nation today. We also represent a university that has benefited directly and indirectly from the transatlantic slave trade, whose ancestors have not been compensated, and we should be mindful of the past and commit ourselves to anti-racism as we discuss the future. I'd also like to acknowledge ongoing conflict domestically and abroad, and urge us all to appreciate the incredible beauty of this moment, that we're able to gather here today as a university, as a community, in a moment of reflection and celebration when many around the world are unable to do so. I'd also like to thank all the faculty and staff that made today possible: Dean Jane, Dean Hampton, Dean Warrior, Dean Vries, Dean Rugas, to all our mentors who supported us, too many to name here, to all the administrators that keep this place running, and of course to Alex Meringue and Kelly Whalen, who served as academic advisors, but so much more. Therapists, crisis managers, and cheerleaders. We couldn't have done this all without you. And finally, I'd like to welcome all of you here today, close friends and family members who came from far to share this moment with us, those who are watching virtually. We didn't get here alone. It truly takes a village, and parts of our villagers are here in the church today and with us in spirit. And for that, we could not be more grateful. So, when do we actually become doctors? That's the question that's been on my mind, and perhaps a lot of our minds for a while now. It's the annoying, are we there yet? On the road trip that started when we first came up with the idea to go to medical school. Some of you are probably thinking now, well, Sud, obviously the answer is today. It's literally our graduation. But I ask the question because I truly believe it's more complicated than that. By analogy, every year on your birthday, you would agree that you don't suddenly become 1 year older. Aging is a process. Becoming something, anything, is a process. And so it leads us to wonder, for those of us who chose a life in medicine, what has this process been, and what are we trying to become? Undeniably, it was a long road getting here. Without ignoring the labor that got us into medical school, I'll start with the number: 1,386 days since our orientation at AMS. That's 46 months, 198 weeks, over 33,000 hours. And that's just the minimum. For those of us who took a year off, it's more like 42,000 hours. And for those who did an MD PhD, I stopped counting. Along the way, we experienced joy and hardship. We watched lifelong friendships develop. We saw relationships start, and more, proposals, marriages, and new babies. We grew as individuals in a community in every sense of the word. But, and there's always a but, it wasn't easy. Perhaps every generation says this, but our time in medical school was harder than usual, because for most of us, our initial experiences in medical school overlapped with the first few waves of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thinking back to those days, we would have never imagined a gathering of this size, unmasked, without distancing. Some in MD24 had just missed their college graduations and are probably sitting in person for their first commencement like this since high school. We were forced to quarantine, limit contact with our new classmates, and test multiple times per week in person. I remember vividly what that was like, but of course I can't speak to the experiences of all of my classmates. And so, last week I sent out a survey to gather personal reflections from the pandemic, and I'll share a few responses here. Thank you to those who actually filled out my poll. Classmates wrote the following: "It was painful watching everyone struggle. I wanted to find mentors to start charting my path, but everyone was so busy, stressed, worried. I wondered if I would ever learn what normal is like. It was so hard to build community in our class. For a while, there were classmates who I recognized only by the tops of their faces because we always had masks on. And perhaps one that summed it up best, one classmate sent via text, 'Sorry, Sud, I'm traveling right now, so I can't fill out your survey. But in terms of starting med school during a global pandemic, it sucked.' And I tend to agree. It did. However, looking back, we can't help but recognize how these challenges shaped who we are today. It showed us a concept beyond resilience, because something resilient absorbs stress and remains unchanged. But how do you describe something that goes through stress, breaks down, and wakes up the next morning ready for more? As we watched those in healthcare kicking their feet to keep their heads above water, we realized that in this trying profession, you can't always stay afloat. Some storms are just too great. But as the pandemic dragged on, we witnessed something else too: the profound art of sinking without drowning. The ability to open your eyes while submerged and realize when we really need to, it's possible to breathe underwater. Because, in fact, the hardships did not give way to helplessness. As medical students, we volunteered at contact tracing sites, delivered food so high-risk members of the community could avoid grocery stores. We babysitted and dog-sitted and cat-sitted so senior physicians could work extra shifts. In fact, it's the credo of medical students around the world to ask the following question: is there anything else I can help with? We've all asked that at some point. We found ourselves asking and answering this question for ourselves. This adaptivity to take initiative and find purpose amid chaos will serve us throughout our careers. Now, they say pressure makes diamonds, but in this case, I'd argue that the strain made us softer. It bolstered our compassion and expanded our perspectives by forcing us to confront shamefully gaping medical disparities. Our long history of racism in the societal and governmental structures of our country meant that communities of color shouldered a greater burden of disease and had less access to treatment. This truth was a foundational pillar of how our generation of physicians learned about the systems of care in the US, a truth we must fight to change in our careers of service. And ultimately, on a personal level, the pandemic taught us the power and necessity of connection. As the COVID generation, we had to fight for this connection, and we got pretty good at it. Going forward, we'll recognize more than previous generations the indispensable role of camaraderie and friendship in our work lives and our personal lives. Okay, so that's a bit about where we came from, the process. Now, what are we becoming? Since this is actually your final set of lectures, I thought I'd take a moment to take attendance. MD24, I'm going to need your help with this one. I'll go through the class, specialty by specialty, and when I call out the name of your future specialty, feel free to cheer, raise your hand, wave your caps, whatever feels right. I'll start slow and then move through more quickly. Are you guys ready? Okay. 132 graduates sit here today. Before you, I present 28 members of MD24 pursuing residency in internal medicine, we have 13 future emergency medicine doctors. We have 12 future pediatricians, 9 future psychiatrists, 9 pursuing OBGYN, 8 future family med doctors, 4 future radiologists, 4 future neurologists, 3 future anesthesiologists, 2 dermatologists, and 1 each of pathology, triple board, and PM&R. Oh, and I almost forgot. We have 23 future surgeons in our class. Among them, 5 future orthopedic surgeons, 4 future plastic surgeons, 4 future ophthalmologists, 3 pursuing general surgery, 3 neurosurgeons, 3 urologists, and finally 2 spectacular, amazing, stellar otolaryngologists. Sarah, Brian, did I say that right? Anyway, thank you for playing along. Those were just our specialties, though. Beyond our future training, what does it mean to become a doctor? It's a big question, and one that I don't have an answer for right now. If you want real wisdom, I suggest you find Dr. Schiffman after the ceremony lets out. But since I have the mic, I'll offer at least part of the answer, and I think it's littered among our favorite medical quotes. You might have heard, to cure sometimes, to relieve often, to comfort always. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once said, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul." I scrolled through Med Twitter recently and found another one I liked. "A patient won't care how much you know until they know how much you care." Running through all of these aphorisms, as well as Dean Jane's speech and Dr. Schiffman's speech, is a common thread that you've heard already. It's humanity. A key role of a doctor is to connect with patients, and if that's the case, then we become doctors through living and embracing human experience. Patients need doctors that look like them, that have felt the ways they felt, can share in their highs and lows, and understand the esoteric as well as the mundane. We become doctors when we eat our favorite dessert and understand that diet change is hard. We become doctors when we stay up way too late, catching up with friends, and realize that sleep hygiene is a very weird concept. We become doctors when we watch new movies and have opinions on the latest reality TV shows, even when we scroll Instagram and TikTok, understanding how addictive they are, but also what they'll mean to future generations. Surely mastering medical knowledge took a large amount of sacrifice, and it's not to say that USMLE exams, residency match, and the degree today aren't important, but rather that they lose their meaning if we don't take the necessary next step of applying our knowledge and skills with the necessary humility, compassion, and care that comes from being grounded humans. So indeed, we'll remain on this journey of becoming doctors long after today, through residency, fellowship, and beyond. And on that note of going forward, commitment to diversity in the profession is a must, and we have a long way to go to make good on that promise. In the meantime, I'll say that our patients need the sum total of our past experiences, every version of ourselves. The perfectionist pre-med college student who never misses a detail, the musician with creativity that brightens a dull room, and the former athlete that has teamwork baked into their DNA. We need them all, in different measures, at the right time, because don't forget, you were becoming doctors back then too. Now I'll admit, this isn't a novel concept. Many people would agree that medicine and humanity are linked at their cores. And so if you'll let me, I'll distill my case for the humanity in medicine and say that it is, in fact, stronger than it's ever been. Point 1. The first shock to our system, COVID, that we experience in our medical education won't be the last. The next big shock to our health system will be as new, unexpected, and seemingly insurmountable as the pandemic that shaped our early education. And what got us through that pandemic was human connection, faith in our public health officials, trust in scientists and researchers, and ultimately the bond between healthcare providers and the public. As we look to learn from the last 4 years, it couldn't be more obvious the role that humanity will play in our ability to weather the next storm. Second, we're living in an exciting time where technology and scientific advances are rapidly changing medicine. New gene therapies are on the market, and as of today, some patients living with sickle cell disease can actually be cured. Applications of artificial intelligence are poised to reach the clinic. Think ChatGPT, but designed for medical care. New technology tends to exacerbate inequities and threatens to alter the therapeutic dynamic. But we, as the next generation of physicians, will have some control over how these advances change care. I'll give you a story. When the stethoscope was first invented, certain physicians rejected it. At the time, it was common practice for a physician to place their ear directly against a person's bare chest to listen for heart sounds. And some said, nothing should get between me and my patient. Now, if your physician did that to you today, you'd probably ask for a second opinion, or if you're a med student with a standardized patient, Dean Rugas would fail you on your OSCE. Of course, now the stethoscope is a symbol of our profession, and my point is that it's up to us to decide how technology is incorporated into the practice of medicine and determine how we can ensure that care is human-centered and patient-centered. We and other healthcare professionals truly will act as the stewards of humanity in healthcare going forward. And then finally, point 3, we live in a world that is increasingly divided politically and ideologically. The news is monopolized by conflict, and doctors, as healers, have a part to play. We have a pedestal on which to call for basic human dignity and a calling to provide the rights of health and safety to all those in need. You can hear them outside today. I hope we all stay engaged, keep our values close to our hearts, and advocate for those at home and globally. After all, being a good doctor is about being intensely humanistic, always, but even more so in trying times when humanity itself is under attack. So to conclude, I'd say we become doctors throughout this journey in a continuous and concerted fashion. Each time we put on scrubs or get ready for clinic, we revalidate our commitment to our communities, to being healers, and to leaning into humanity with all of our beings. Every day, with consistent effort and thought and measure, we will become more of what the letters behind our names represent. So I'll end with a single request and a short piece of practical advice for this moment. First, the request. After today, MD24, please don't be strangers. Continue to cultivate these bonds that will sustain us through our careers and our lives. I will say we have the tools. Turn on your GroupMe notifications, or better yet, get people's numbers. We owe it to ourselves and our patients to stay in touch. And now, the advice. Be present in this moment. We may become doctors every day, but we only graduate medical school once. So if you'll bear with me one last time, focus your attention on the now. It's May 26th, 2024. We're gathered here today with loved ones to celebrate this miraculous moment in our lives, to recognize how far we'll come and how far we will go. When you get your hood, pause for a second to let it sink in. Feel its weight on your shoulders. When you hug loved ones out on the lawn, squeeze a little tighter and hold a second longer. Try to let the stresses of planning this weekend and the changes of the coming months fade away for a while and just appreciate where we are right now. Don't miss this moment, class of 2024, because despite everything I've just said, and the fact that the road behind us is long and the road ahead longer and winding still, as of today, in the eyes of society, our loved ones, and the Warren Alpert Medical School of Brown University, members of the class of 2024, I guess we're all doctors now. Thank you.
Graduates, please stand. It is traditional that those about to enter the profession of medicine take an oath before their peers, their faculty, and their families, pledging themselves to certain ethical principles of commitment and professional behavior. This particular oath was written by the MD class of 1975 and has been used by each succeeding class. Please repeat after me. Now being admitted to the high calling of the physician, I solemnly pledge to dedicate my life to the care of the sick, the promotion of health, and the service of humanity. In the spirit of those who have inspired and taught me, I will seek constantly to grow in knowledge, understanding, and skill. And will work with my colleagues to promote all that is worthy. In the ancient and honorable profession of medicine. The health and dignity of my patient will ever be my first concern. I will hold in confidence all that my patient relates to me. I will not permit consideration of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, nationality, or social standing. To come between me and my duty to anyone in need of my services. This pledge I make freely and upon my honor. Please be seated.
Good morning, everyone. You might ask, who's this person in the funny hat sitting in this chair in the middle of the room? Brown is steeped in tradition. I'm Jeff Hines. I'm a member of the Board of Fellows. It's the Board of Fellows, Sud, that confers the degrees to you and 131 of your colleagues, so yes, you will become a doctor very soon. The ceremony is done in Latin. So I want to explain to you the 3 times that I will speak Latin. The first time, I'm speaking to other members of the Board of Fellows, we met a few days ago, to say that the 132 of you are fit to get this degree, and I will ask you to stand. The second time I will speak is when you line up here, is when I will actually confer your degree. The third time I will speak is when I wish you well and to do good in the world. So just so that we all understand. Soci honorandi, hominis quos ad gradum doctus medicinae Irenaeus comprimeris, vobis presentamus et os ad hoc gradu promovere liceat rogamos. Candidate ad gradum doctorus medicinae ascendam. Autoritate mihi commissa vos ad graduum doctorus medicinae admito, hominaque jura applica ad hunc gradu prominentia vobis concedo.
Sir, I have the honor to present the recipients of the degree of Doctor of Medicine of Brown University, class of 2024. Gazal Agagoli. Chinoso Akuchie. J. Alex Albright. Andres Amaya. George Anderson. Daniel Antonson. Sarah Arbaugh. Taylor Arnoff. Ankush Bajaj. Elena Barella. Andrew Barton. Carl Baumgartner. Christopher Baston. Nicole Bensi. Isabella Berglund Brown. Jacob Berman. Rebecca Barubi. Jeffrey Binney. Amy Blackburn. Victoria Bryady. Tess Brown. Blair Big. Gregory Kavanaugh. Kelvin Chang. Jane Chen. Jashi Joseph Chen. Kevin Chen. Madeline Chin. Corinne Cobb. Nicole Camella. John Katoya. Olivia Cummings. Jonathan Daniel. Frank Dang. Zaina Dewan. Megan Duckworth. Bella Ehrlich. Aaron Eisman. Ogechi Ezema. Carrie Favaloro. Jose Flores. Joshua Goldenberg. Rachna Goli. Jungho Gong. Serica Halstead. Jacob Heath. James Heinel. Mark Hosevar. Gian Ignacio. Spandana Jamale. Cameron Johnson. Jessica Jordan. Sean Kant. David Karambizi. Ryan Keefe. Daniel Kim. Kang Woo Khan Kim. Nicole Kim. Grace Claris. Elizabeth Klein. Noelle Lee. Martin Lee. Yang Lin. Karen Loeb. David Loftus. Spencer Lyons. Scott McDonald. Ingrid Motter. Rose Mahoney. Megan McCarthy. Allison McHale. Nandi Mehta. Eric Me. Rachel Moody. Jessica Moore. Nikki Mosinski. Isabel Mosley. Marguerite Mullen. Cara Murphy. Anika Naeem. Preston Nicely. Sarah Niehaus. Madhu Nori. Sarah Nuss. Uche Onwunaka. Martha Ormanowski. Marcelo Paiva. Kelly Pan. Sudheesha Perera. Bianca Persad. Kemshlis Pikar. Margaret Pixley. Praveen Rajaguru. Elliot Rebello. Nathaniel Rex. Amita Shastri. Stephen Schmidt. Zachary Shaw. Naomi Shembo. Alexandra Sheridan. Catherine Sine. Ryan Snow. Luke Solomon. John Soley. Praveen Srinivasan. Olivia Stone. Nicholas Strelsov. Caitlin Takeda. Mary Tarantino. Jamie Thorndike. Tess Trinka. Nikisha Vaggiani. Ella Van Deventer. Sean Varga. Neil Vishwanath. Braden Vogt. Emma Waddell. Zachary Weissman. Rebecca Wales. Janine Whalen. James Williams. Jessica Yamada. Raina Zhang. Brian Zhao. Brian Zhang. Emily Zitkovsky. Sir, I wish to report that 8 students have completed their degree requirements and have permission to receive their degree in absentia. Christopher Barry. Tess Gabert. Lee Kinney. Huang Jin Lee. River Lerner. Allison Navarrete Welton. Blessed Sharif. Maranatha Teferi.
Videte igitur et probe intereque in etymolitum rea publica et dia honoreum et deset eos hoc gradua honoratos vos geratas. Sedete, doctorus medicina.
Good morning, everybody, and congratulations, class of 2024. My name is Ella Van Deventer, and today I have the great pleasure of presenting this year's Senior Citation Faculty Award to our very own Dr. Lisa Toper. We honor you today, Dr. Toper, for your contribution to our class as a clinician, educator, and mentor. As a clinician, you have exemplified compassionate care and comprehensive care, navigating difficult conversations and medical complexity with a grace that inspires us. As an educator, your love for your field is truly infectious. Your ability to distill challenging topics into tangible pieces grows in us an excitement for learning and a strong foundation on which to build our ever-expanding knowledge. You push us to be better clinicians, all while maintaining a safe and nurturing environment. And last, but most certainly not least and dearest to my heart, as a mentor, you are a born natural. There are few people who are able to believe in you so fiercely that even on your hardest, most doubtful days, you begin to believe in yourself. Even fewer, like you, can be that for so many. Your mentorship has empowered so many of us not only to be better clinicians, but to be better people, and that is immeasurably valuable. So on behalf of the class of 2024, we are so lucky to have you. Thank you for everything.
Indeed, this is truly the day that God has made. It is appropriately fitting to rejoice and be glad in it. To the class 2024, congratulations. To the staff, to the educators, to the families, to the friends, to the loved ones, I want to also congratulate you for the ways in which you love and support these graduates. Thank you. Now, for those of you who are comfortable praying, please join me in prayer. Now that you have reached this significant milestone, may the guiding hand of the Almighty, which has led you safely and successfully through your education at Brown, continue to illuminate your path in all your future endeavors. May the unconditional love and the unwavering support of your family and friends, which sustain you during your studies at Brown, remain steadfast as you embark on your new pursuits as healers in the world. May the supreme education, the ethical guidance imparted by the esteemed faculty and staff at the med school serve as beacons of light, guiding your professional decisions and contributions to humanity. May the bonds of friendship forged here at Brown blossom into enduring connections and lifelong friendships, enriching your journey with shared experience and mutual support. May the faith, discipline, sacrifices, and hard work that you've used to successfully graduate Brown pave the way for a future brimming with health, joy, and fulfillment. May the boundless love of God, the steadfast support of family and friends and educators and staff, may the very best of health and prosperity that life can offer be yours always. Now go forth and be the healers that our world desperately need. And those who feel comfortable may say amen. Thank you.